defend duty, the central midfielder will focus on sitting deep, curtailing opposition counterattacks, and controlling the tempo of the game from the centre of the pitch. That does sound quite good. But is it defensive enough? So maybe we'll go with the 3 in a triangle and more keep the player more in his role by putting him in the correct position. So maybe that would fit with structured. So let's try that. Defend. Obviously, we're not going to use Herrera. Question is, who would we use for that? And so instead of those roles, it's defensive midfielder or deep line playmaker. You can argue for anchorman, or you can argue for ball winning midfielder. I don't rate ball winning midfielder. It's very cool when they're just charging about, tackling everyone. That's really nice to see. But the thing is, they close down too much, far too much, and then they leave their position, and then you're exposed. So you don't want that in a counter-attacking game. And even if you do want that, you would want another defender, defensive midfielder, to make sure that they are holding their position in front of the defence. So I don't know whether, when it's right to use that, but I would use it with another defensive midfielder. So defensive midfielder or deep line playmaker. Now generally, we want him to be we want the role to accord to the shape. So do we want our defensive midfielder to be a playmaker and do passing, or do we want him to concentrate more on defending? Keep hold of the ball while the defence and attack are reorganising themselves after a period of opposition pressure. See that's with the defend duty, the defensive midfielder will hold his position between the midfield and defensive lines of recycled possession from a deep position. See, that seems like a sort of role you'd use when you're playing a more aggressive strategy. He sits there, makes sure that no one's, he intercepts balls, but you're basically higher up the pitch and you're playing a more attacking kind of game. So I'm not sure that's right. I don't think support is right either. I think we like this deep line playmaker defend. So then we've got, and then that fits with the team shape. So the defensive midfielders are responsible for the defensive and transition phases. That is what a deep line playmaker defend does. He defends and then he helps transition. That's great. That's what you want right there. And hopefully we can see some long range passes from this position. What about the other two roles? So I think I have that right. What about the other two roles? Well, we need someone to get in the box. We need someone to get back and forth and support the defense and the attack and do everything. Sort of something versatile. So could be this one, central midfield support. Let's look at what that says. Look to judiciously balance his attacking and defensive responsibilities. He will get forward when necessary, but he will mainly keep to the centre of the pitch and attempt to thread passes to players in the final third. That does sound very good. The other one I'm thinking of, well, that's actually possibly two, is box-to-box midfielder. So in defence, let's read it from the beginning. The non-stop dynamism of the box-to-box midfielder enables him to contribute greatly to both defending and attacking. We do want that. In attack, he pushes up to support the forwards and often surging late into the box to get on the end of crosses and pullbacks, as well as providing a threat from distance. That sounds good. We want that, and we want to come forward in numbers. So this sounds like we do want that. In defence, he harries attacking midfielders. And what do people like Paris Saint-Germain play? They play attacking midfielders. Can we perhaps have a look at the tactics? Where is the other team? Well, let's just, I don't know. Let's go on their tactics. What are they playing? So they're playing that. So they're playing the same sort of formation. I don't know what their strategy is going to be, but I think they played something far different last time. They played like a 3 at the back system with wing backs, which was unsuccessful because they ended up overloading their wide areas, which a wing back strategy tends to be susceptible to. So I think box-to-box midfielder is probably the right one, but I think central midfielder is the one that is sort of toned down a little bit more, and perhaps he's a little bit more creative. I don't know. And as it happens, we've got Schneiderlin who has all the attributes to be a box-to-box midfielder, and he gets forward whenever possible, tries long-range passes. You want that as well because you want to be able to bang it up forward quickly. That's what. And he's not the fastest player. He's not got very good finishing. He's not got very good off the ball, but he's a good sort of all-rounder. Look at that tackling. I mean, you could argue that he's more of a ball-winning midfielder. But I think he performs all these roles really well, and I'm really glad to have him. So, and then what else do we want? We want a central midfielder that gets forward. We don't want an advanced playmaker. We don't want a roaming playmaker. I mean, you could argue for ball-winning midfielder support. Win the ball back high up the pitch. I don't think we are going to be winning the ball high up the pitch. We're going to be winning it in our own half. So maybe I don't think that's suitable. I suppose you could go with box-to-box support again, but we need an attacking role. We need to make sure someone is in there penetrating the box for when the crosses come in. So I think centre midfield attack is spot on. More readily surging in the final third, support the forwards in and around the box. That's what you want. You want that. Now, I think as this sort of takes shape, I'm sort of a little bit more inclined to put at least one of these fullbacks on support, because if you look at the way this is set up at the moment, these attacking players have no support except Schneiderlin, and that's not good. So I think, and I'm not sure we're going to have it like this either. I think, if I'm going to use Mata, which I do want to because he's just phenomenal, I think I'd put him on the left, and then I'd use Schneiderlin here on the right, box-to-box support. And then we use centre midfield attack here. So you see how we've got a nice balance of roles here. We've got one that defends, and his main role is to defend the defensive line and distribute for counter-attacks, bring ball out of defence and counter-attack. He doesn't get forward, he holds his position. The box-to-box midfielder gets up and down the park, all day long. The centre midfielder is a bit like the box-to-box midfielder, but he penetrates more easily in the box-to-box and probably helps out the defence a little bit less. But you don't want everyone helping out with the defence. You want someone in midfield that's more ready to get forward to receive the ball, to start to carry on the transition from where Herrera's placed. We're not going to use Herrera. Actually, I like Schweinsteiger very much. I love the way he plays in the match engine. Like he doesn't really make any mistakes, and I'm really impressed with him. Turns out he's going to leave Man United, I think, pretty sure. But I like him, and I'm glad we got him. So you can see he's really good for the role. If I highlight, yeah, I mean, really good. Not the greatest vision, but really good reading of the game, really good mentors, and he's just perfect for it. He's got like the perfect preferred moves for it. Stops play, dictates tempo, comes deep to get the ball. That's what you want. Switch balls to other flank. That's what you want. So really liking it so far. Now, when it comes to the wide players, this is important as well. When you're talking about counter-attacking football, you want to make sure that your wide players are doing a number of things, and I don't think you should have two on the same role, but you could do. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Generally, you want to go with an inside forward and a winger. Well, we might go with wingers. It just depends on what we want to do. It really comes down to as well like the duty. When you go with an attack duty, this is really important. When you go with an attack duty on an inside forward or a winger in AML or AMR, what happens is they run at the defence and then they run to the byline as well to do crosses. If you think about counter-attacking football, that happens sometimes, but really it's about catching the opposition off guard and exploiting the space behind the opposition defensive line. So really you want your players to hit early crosses, and the way that you do that is actually put them on support. If you read the inside forward support role, it says with the support duty, the inside forward will cut diagonally into the space behind the defence, referring to exploiting the space, and play through balls. You want that, or take long shots if the opportunity arises. That's what you want. And then on the other side, let's read about the winger. With an attack duty, the winger will try and run at the defence in the final third, aim to cause panic and indecision prior to shooting or attempting to make a through ball or cross to a teammate. But if you read the actual instructions that you can't remove, it says cross from byline, and that's really bad for counter-attacking football. You need him to release the ball early, and so you want him to have a support role. Now, you can argue that you're not getting enough players in the box, but I think we are. We've got one coming into the box here. Just because he's got a support role doesn't mean to say he's not going to come into the box and help out. And the same goes for the winger here. But all that means is he's going to, if you look at the difference between support role and attack role, what's the difference? Cross from byline and get further forward. That's the only two that are added on, I think. Yeah, there's 6 there. Yeah. So these are the correct roles, and the interesting thing as well about these support roles is they actually help out in defence more. If you ever watch an inside forward on attack, they will just camp up on the fullback basically all game long until something happens and they get the ball and they run with the ball or whatever. But they don't help in the defence a lot at all. It's really bad. But if you put them on support, they'll help out a bit more with the defence, and that can be quite important to get them forward. No, sorry, to not concede goals, which is really important, really important. We'll come back to that in a moment, but for the striker, you need someone that plays off the shoulder, that runs with the ball, that basically gets on the end of, moves into the space at speed. He's not holding up the ball. He's not trying to create too much. He's just trying to get the goal. So it's really a toss-up between poacher and advanced forward. All of the other roles revolve around dropping into space, holding up the ball, creating, doing things other than scoring goals. And if you look at, remember going back to our team shape, it's structured, and we want our attackers to be only responsible for the attacking phase. So if we make a role that is like a false 9, that's all about a attacker being a midfielder, basically. And you don't want that. You want an attacker to attack. So it's advanced forward or poacher. So let's look at poacher. And think about the implications for space as well, because this is important. Dribble more, run wide with the ball. No, that's Valencia. We need to select Martial. Fewer risky passes, get further forward. We don't want our centre forward trying to create too much. We just want to keep it simple, score the goals, get further forward. That sounds good. And as it happens, Martial isn't a very creative player anyway. He's got a few tricks up his sleeve, but look at his technical ability for passing. His vision is not very good for the Premier League or the Champions League even. So poacher seems right, although it's suggesting these other roles could be more optimal. And then, as I said, you've got to toss up between poacher and advanced forward. And as a general rule, this is the case for like all counter-attacking tactics. You need one of your forwards to be up there, just whose job it is to score the goals, get on the end of the ball, score the goals. That might seem like common sense for a striker, but when you use other roles like false 9, it's obviously not his job to do that, because you might say, well, a striker's job is to score the goals, but actually no, there are roles which involve not scoring the goals. And bringing the other teammates into play. But we're all about bringing the striker into play, and never mind about bringing the teammates into play too much. So poacher looks quite good there. And we look at his Martial's attributes, and it says here the second most recommended role is poacher. Look at his distribution of attributes. He's got decent attributes. He's got nice acceleration, agility. One thing I do notice though is that he moves into channels. His preferred move is move into channels. Plays 1-2s. He's involved in the build-up play. His PPMs are set up for that, but he has got places shots, which is the sort of a poacher sort of goal. Gets into opposition area. That's what you want as well, for sure. So on the face of it, poacher seems like exactly what I want, but maybe advanced forward is better. So let's look at advanced forward. Chase down misplaced balls, through balls, or clearances from deep. We definitely want that. Win possession and lay off passes or crosses to his teammates. And that's his secondary role. Well, that doesn't sound too. Some of that doesn't sound too aligned with our team shape strategy and that's important. But for the most part, he wants to score the goals. But I am concerned about this move into channels thing, because when you're playing too high up the pitch wingers or inside forwards, you don't want I'm not sure you want a guy down the channels getting in your way. I mean, it means that basically Martial could get in the way of Valencia or Depay, because they the channels, moving to channels means go to the right or to the left and then move into the centre, sort of across the defensive line. So I mean, it could be okay, but like it could possibly cause problems with space, and we need Mata to have some space as well to come in. So maybe that could work. So he moves into channels, okay, so Valencia has his space sacrificed, but he could come inside maybe, and we've got these runners from deep as well. Yeah, so yeah, maybe I think with this setup, advanced forward is the way to go. And if it doesn't work, we can try poacher and see how if that's effective or not. So I think we've more or less covered it in terms of roles and duties. The other thing I'd say is I don't want to use an offside trap. When you're playing counter-attacking football, you're sitting deep. You're not using an offside trap. You're not trying to create. You're not trying to push up too quickly to create space so that you can catch the opposition offside. That's not good. That's not a good idea. In terms of instructions, I don't like to use a lot of instructions. And to be honest with you, hit early crosses seems nice, but do I want them to always do it? I don't know. I'd like to make sure they have some choice. We can add that on as we see fit, but a lot of people put in like 16 different team instructions, and then their team doesn't know what the fuck to do. The default setup for each of these mentalities is already optimal. That's what people don't realize. Like, it's already set up to do what it says it's going to do, and fiddling around with it makes it do things other than what you want it to do. Now, you can do things which complement your shape and your mentality. So, for example, I could be more disciplined, but then you can argue that counter-attack mentality and structured is already set up for that. So what I'm doing there by clicking be more disciplined is I'm actually decreasing my creative freedom even more, so that they don't have any sort of decision making about something which could be more effective, that they're only focused on doing what I tell them to do. And I'm not sure when you've got a team like Manchester United, you want your attacking players to have some choice about what they're going to do, because they might create something that otherwise might not have been created, and it says that on there. It may come at the expense of some individual expression, and you need individual expression to create goals, and it's important. But you do want them to stick to their roles. So we've already got it set up so that they do that. Counter-attack and structured. They're more or less sticking to their roles. They're more or less counter-attacking most of the time. So we've got that set up right. We don't need to add in be more disciplined. It will just compound the lower mentality and shape. Same thing with movement. I don't need to make them stick to their positions, because they're already set up to do that on my shape, my structured shape. So really, you can just leave the team instructions set off, and then I think it comes down to using these during a game when you need to make quick adjustments and more refined adjustments during the game. This is what instructions are for, and I think they're sort of misused. That people don't understand that you need to use them in the game, not before the game. Don't have your teams learn all these instructions. It's a fine tweaking during the game. So I think we're going to leave everything as it is, and then see how that goes. And if you go on the forum, Sports Interactive Forum, go on the Tactics Forum. There's a guy called Cleon on there, and he makes a similar point. And a lot of what I'm talking about, I've basically got off of him. So he's a genius on this stuff. So you should definitely listen to him. Passing the space though, that's one we might end up using, because we do want a lot more through balls. We want, but then again, it might not be optimal. Like we're telling them to pass in the space more than they might otherwise. So that might end up with balls just going, over the top with nobody on the end of them. It's not intelligent play. So that could work with our tactic, but we're not going to use it until we need to. If there's not enough being created, we might have to press that to get more chances. But coming up to this next game, so thinking about the actual overall strategy of this next game against PSG. We need to win the group or go up, qualify basically, and we can't lose this game. We cannot lose this game, and that's why counter is so important. So we do want to stick to mainly our overall objective. We don't want to stray from our objective here. So we need to be conservative and not do things like pass into space before I even clicked on started the game, started the match. So we're going to leave that as it is, and that's basically a counter-attacking tactic. As for player instructions, that could be useful. But again, the role and the duty already defines very well what the player should be doing. You use your player instructions. We're going to turn that off for sure. Right. Make sure that we've got no instructions on any of our players. Good. The role and the duty already have set up what the player is supposed to do, and they set it up perfectly well. You add in your instructions for the player. It's largely player dependent. So if I've got Martial up front, he's not very creative, and I don't want him to do things too creatively. I don't want him to get involved in the creative side of it. So if I turn down his passing risks, he might that might be better for him, because he's not really suitable for creating a lot, 11 passing. His balls are going to go all over the place. That sounds very rude. So we might put that on during the game, but we're not going to make it his default. And as I said, we might change to poacher. But you notice as well the dribble more on advanced forward, which I don't think it is present on poacher. You notice that? And that is kind of important because we do need our forward to dribble with the ball and run behind the opposition defence. We